What if Skin and Bones wasn't the hero, but the villain all along? This recap is about to start a war in the comments. The story begins with a peaceful farmhouse nestled in the mountains, where a man named Grady lives with his wife, children, and brother. Grady had ventured into the mountains with his friends for a hunting trip, but 10 days had passed, and none of them had returned. The police had already informed Grady's family about the disappearance. They had even conducted a search operation, but it had to be abandoned midway due to terrible weather. No trace of Grady was found. These mountains were infamous for being cursed. Anyone who entered them never came back. In Grady's absence, his brother Rowdy took on the responsibility of looking after the family. Nearby, a man named Eddie lived alone in a van. Meanwhile, things at the farmhouse were tense. Rowdy was having an affair with Grady's wife, Ellen. Their eldest son, Drake, had noticed the relationship and began to resent Rowdy. Drake believed Rowdy didn't want his father to return, so he resolved to search for Grady himself. Despite his love for his brother, Rowdy had a bad leg and knew the mountains were dangerous. Concerned for Drake, he took a horse from him and decided to go in his place. But unexpectedly, before anyone could begin a proper search, Grady returned. His appearance was horrifying. He was barely able to walk, looked unrecognizable, and his face was disfigured. He collapsed repeatedly and had to be carried inside. The doctor who examined him found no major injuries, only extreme weakness. Miraculously, Grady had survived for 10 days in the mountains, though no one could understand how the doctor speculated that Grady must have eaten something to stay alive. However, the moment food was mentioned, Grady gave his son a strange, unsettling look. Drake felt disturbed by his father's gaze. Tensions worsened when Drake and Rowdy got into an argument. Drake accused Rowdy of being unnecessary now that Grady had returned and warned him to stay away from his mother. Rowdy tried to calm him down, insisting that Drake didn't know the whole truth and should focus on helping Ellen out later. Drake brought food for Grady, but quickly ran downstairs, terrified. He told Rowdy that something about Grady felt off, like he wasn't his father anymore. Moments later, crashing sounds came from upstairs. Grady had dropped the food, then began screaming in hunger. When Ellen approached him, Grady creepily licked her arm and said it tasted good. This chilling comment hinted at something horrifying: cannibalism. Ellen was deeply frightened that night. As everyone slept, eerie noises echoed through the farmhouse. A horse screamed, and loud, beastly snoring was heard. Rowdy went outside to find their horse brutally attacked. No predator was in sight, but the camera revealed Grady staring at the horse with a twisted grin. Their neighbor Eddie came over, suspecting something supernatural, while Rowdy blamed a wild animal. Eddie believed Grady was responsible. That Eddie confronted Grady the next morning holding a knife. He shared a story from his childhood. His uncle had once returned from those very mountains, emaciated and strange, and ended up slaughtering Eddie's entire family. The police eventually shot the uncle to stop the killing. Eddie believed the same evil spirit had now possessed Grady. He claimed it was eating Grady from the inside and hollowing him out. Grady, suddenly animated and ghost-like, confessed the spirit had already taken over his body. It was no longer him in control. That Grady warned Eddie not to act on his thoughts, claiming he'd end up in prison. He then calmly lay back down, and Eddie left. Fearing what was to come, Eddie ran to Rowdy to explain everything. He revealed that Grady's body housed the demonic soul of Wendigo, a flesh-eating spirit from the mountains that possessed people and made them commit monstrous acts. Grady begged Rowdy to kill him before the spirit caused more harm. Meanwhile, Ellen went to Grady's room and saw the untouched food. As she picked it up, Grady, sounding like his old self, called her over. He explained that during the hunting trip, they got lost and took shelter in a cave. For friends went for help and never returned. As they starved, a voice whispered to Grady, promising salvation if he let in. That voice belonged to the evil spirit, and desperate, Grady agreed. Possessed, he was forced to kill and eat his friend to survive. That Grady warned Ellen that the spirit still hungered. When Ellen tried to leave, Grady suddenly stood in her path, saliva dripping from his mouth as he prepared to devour her. Luckily, Rowdy arrived just in time and pointed a gun at him. Grady fled into a room, locking himself in and smashing everything around while howling in rage. Terrified, Ellen decided to flee with the children and Rowdy that Eddie arrived and offered them his van as an escape vehicle. But Drake, still clinging to hope, refused to abandon his father. Ellen slapped him, reminding him that the creature wasn't his dad anymore and needed to be killed. The family escaped, leaving Eddie to confront Grady alone. But Grady ambushed him and snapped his neck. Rowdy, armed with a gun, stormed into the house to finish Grady. Ellen tried to stop him, but arrived too late. Inside, Rowdy found Eddie's corpse. When he reached Grady's room, he saw him lying weakly on the bed, pretending to be helpless. Rowdy hesitated out of pity, and Grady used that moment to attack and kill him. Ellen, sensing danger, hid the children elsewhere. But Grady emerged carrying Rowdy's lifeless body and dragged Ellen into the kitchen. There, he demanded she cut up Rowdy's body, boil it, and make soup. Ellen, horrified, refused. Grady slapped her. Just then, Drake appeared. To protect him, Ellen pretended to obey. She began chopping Rowdy's flesh while Drake quietly loaded a gun. When the soup was ready, Grady ordered Ellen to prepare another bowl. He wanted her to eat it too. Ellen stalled, claiming she wasn't hungry. But when Drake accidentally dropped a bullet, Grady became suspicious. To buy time, Ellen agreed to eat. As Grady devoured the soup like a beast, he grabbed Ellen and blamed her and Rowdy for his misery. Before he could harm her, Drake fired a shot, injuring Grady. He ran, and Ellen, now wounded, told Drake to save his younger brother, Tim. Drake rushed upstairs to find Grady strangling Tim. Grady turned to him, laughing eerily and saying they should all stay together, in his stomach. His eyes turned white, a clear sign the spirit had fully taken over. Drake shot him again, and Grady collapsed. Thinking it was over, Drake relaxed, until Grady suddenly sprang up and grabbed him. At the last moment, Ellen arrived and shoved a gun into Grady's mouth, firing a final shot. Grady was dead, but the sinister growling from within his body persisted. The evil spirit of Wendigo still lingered. The story ends here, leaving us with the chilling question: what new terror might still be waiting? Got a better theory? Drop it in the comments. The best take it to shout out in our next video. Thanks for watching.